Season 29 of Dancing with the Stars is heating up, and we're here to react to the best and worst performances of episode 7. Hey guys, welcome back to another Shared News from Home. We are so excited to continue discussing this season of Dancing with the Stars. But before we get into it, if you're new here, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell so you don't miss out on any future updates. As always, I'm your host, Fiona Zaring, and I'm joined by the wonderful Avery Grooms.
Hello.
Hello. So Avery, we have so much to talk about this week. It was a really fun episode. It was Villains Night. The judges kicked things off with that crazy intro. We had a lot of amazing costumes and props. I loved this week. Did you enjoy this themed night?
I love it. It was super festive, got all the spooky vibes, and I just love when the costumes are this great because I feel like the contestants dance, they don't have to be that good because the costumes are still going to make the dance look so good. Obviously, everyone did a great job, but even if it wasn't their best performance, it still seemed so solid because the set was so amazing. The costumes were just all so amazing tonight.
Totally. I feel like it honestly, we saw a bunch of people's best nights tonight, and I think the overall excitement probably played a bit of a role. We saw our first perfect score of the season and 3 couples tied for second place. We are, as always, going to talk about the best 3 and worst 3 based on the judges' scores and our own opinions, which of course typically align, but not always. And we are also going to continue to do our honorable mention category, which we like to award to someone who showed a major improvement from weeks past. I feel like we have so much to talk about, so let's just dive right in and get started with those bottom 3. Kicking things off in third to last place this week was Jeannie Mai and her partner Brandon. Jeannie danced a Hannibal Lecter-inspired Paso Doble to Maneater by Nelly Furtado, and she scored a 25 out of 30. She said she hoped this dance would help her overcome her fear of Silence of the Lambs, which apparently was so traumatizing in her childhood it led to her becoming a vegetarian. They actually opened the show this week, and they had super fun costumes and props, lots of energy. It was a very powerful performance, but they still ended up in the bottom. Let's take a look. Okay, so after Jeannie performed, I was excited about the routine. The judges were excited about the routine. They even praised her technique. There were some critiques about her shoulders and her hands. They told her, keep that energy high, but don't overdo it at some moments. Make sure you stay grounded. It was a really solid number. I feel like my biggest takeaway from this is the competition is really, really intense. I thought Jeannie was going to be in the top tonight, or at least in the middle. And I don't know, I was a little surprised. What were your thoughts, Avery?
I was also surprised. I didn't expect her to be bottom tonight. I don't know if it's because she went first and the bar is just set so much higher for everyone now in the competition. So maybe if she went middle, last, maybe just not first, she would have done better. But I thought it was just overall really solid, one of her better numbers.
I totally agree. I think Jeannie is such a performer. She's really found her stride in her last few weeks. The dancing is good, but she absolutely shows up and shuts down the performance, which was a really big part of tonight. So this one was a little interesting, but she was in the bottom. So what can we say? I'm excited to see what happens. I feel like this should have been a better moment for her, so I have high hopes for next week.
I agree. Next up in second to last place this week was Kaitlyn Bristowe and her partner Artem. They danced a Cruella de Vil-inspired Paso Doble to Disturbia and received a score of 24. It's shocking to see Kaitlyn as one of the lowest scores of the night. The routine was high energy, it was complicated, and as always, they were pretty strong, but the judges had mixed reviews. Let's take a look at the clip. So Derek was most pleased by the routine. He was impressed by the level of choreography. Carrie Ann wanted more strength, and she said it looked like she gave up during certain parts. Bruno said it looked rushed. Yona, I'm interested to hear, do you agree? Do you think these scores were too harsh? I thought it was decent, but I definitely don't think it was her best. What do you think?
You know, it was really interesting because Kaitlyn closed the show tonight. And as we'll get into it with some of the other performances, a lot of other couples opted for major props, major costume moments. And while their stage was fun, the makeup was fun, the performance was fun, they really left it all up to the dancing and the choreography, which I have to agree with what Derek said. As I was watching it, I was like, wow, there's no question that these steps are so much more complicated than some of the other routines we saw. And they're not only just getting through it, they're doing a good job at it. She has set such a high bar for herself, though, that I have to say, I wasn't that impressed. I also kind of felt like, this wasn't the best. It wasn't as perfect. It's not as over the top as it could have been. I don't know. She was up against a lot of really, really good numbers from the other couples tonight and from herself. And that's kind of the danger of being a front runner. I don't know. It was good, but wasn't wow, I guess.
No, it was not. And I always feel like she gets the dances that are the most technical heavy or have the most steps. I just feel like she always has more of an advanced dance, or just more, I don't know how to explain it, but it's just more content heavy, if that makes sense. So obviously I think she's given that because she can handle it and she is a little more advanced, but that is, like you said, why the bar is just raised so much higher for her. And this definitely was not at that bar tonight.
No, I totally agree. I mean, here's the thing. She's too good to give her an easy routine. But what happens is if you give her a harder routine, you give her more technical things that can get messed up. If a judge sees her mess something up, they have to take that down, right? So it's like she can't really win unless she does perfectly, which we've seen her do in the past. I don't know about you, but I felt like you could see it on her face when she finished the dance. She just felt off. I think we're going to see her come back with a vengeance, though. I'm not worried. She's had way too many solid weeks in a row for this, which wasn't even that bad to be the thing that ends her. So I think we're going to see a better week for her next week. Moving on to our last place contestants tonight, Monica Aldama and her partner Val. They did a jazz routine to Fever inspired by Nurse Ratched and scored 22 out of 30. They had fun props and costumes, lots of moments that really showed off Monica's flexibility, even including some low-key tumbling moments. Their character work, though, you guys, felt a bit weaker than other couples, and the judges were left wanting more oomph. Let's take a look at how it played out. So Avery, I'm so curious your thoughts on this one because I'm totally torn. I thought they had a lot of really, really good moments. Carrie Ann even said something like every picture, you were hitting everything right. It had a lot of good things. It just felt a little flat. Do you think they were too harsh? Do you agree? I mean, if she had done some sort of crazy facials or a little more energy, would she have been in the top? Did it really come down to just the character work? What do you think?
Honestly, I think so, because like you said, she hit all the steps, but just there was something missing, and it was just her face. She could have had more emotion, just definitely gotten into character a lot more, and it almost made her seem more stiff. And this is a jazz routine, and it's kind of where you see the cheer coming in versus dance. It just seemed more stiff than, I don't know, it could have flowed a lot better. It would have made for a better performance if she just got into character for sure.
100%. I think that, some of the tough things when you're playing an intense character, a scary character, is sometimes people do nothing with their face because being serious is so much harder than throwing on a big smile. And I felt like that was part of it for me with her. I was she's not really doing anything. She's making a serious face, but she's not scary. She's not being scary. Yeah. She's so sweet. It's hard to be scary.
All right, up next we have our honorable mention. This performer got a score somewhere in the middle, but showed major improvement from last week, at least in our opinion. That's what we think. This week's honorable mention goes to Chrishell. This week, Chrishell and her partner Gleb danced a Maleficent-inspired Paso Doble and scored a 26 out of 30. Chrishell got her first 9s of the season and delivered a very fierce and strong performance. It really was her best yet. Let's take a look.
Yes, that ending moment.
The judges were very impressed. They said it felt very focused and intentional and that they did simple steps that were very well executed. It's been a long time coming for Chrishell, but I think she finally found it and really had her moment tonight. What did you think about this performance?
I was so happy for her. We have been talking about rooting for her and believing in her because I'm super partial, total fan. But I felt like there was just something different about this. I felt like I finally wasn't like, no, she's good. She can do it. It was like, she did it. And I don't know, as a viewer, I was totally impressed with like the strength and like the sharpness of her moments, because I feel like in other routines she's been kind of delicate. She did have a good week last week with the contemporary, and she followed it up again this week with her first 9s. I don't know at this stage of the competition if she's going to go on to be like our top 3, but I feel like she really has found her stride and is going to like live up to her potential for these final few weeks. What were your thoughts?
I totally agree. I feel like she just keeps getting better, and as the competition goes on, she just gets more of a fire and more competitive. And I feel like this routine specifically, she was just 100% in. Like, she gave it her all, and it really showed. Even the judges said they were simple steps, but they were so well executed, and that's really what all that matters when you're performing. So that's just huge, and I think it was a great night for her.
I totally agree. It was also, I mean, she's such a sweet person. Like, to be this intense of a character, like, she really, really pulled it off, which, as we were just talking about, isn't necessarily easy. So I was very proud of her.
Yes, very impressive.
All right, let's move on to tonight's heavy hitters. We had 3 couples tied for second place with scores of 27. They went to Johnny Weir, Skye Jackson, and Nelly. We were so impressed with Nelly. Totally rooting for him. I have been so proud of him these last few weeks. But we do want to break down Skye's performance and Johnny's performance because they had a comeback this week. Both of their teams found themselves in hot water last week, so this was a huge turning point. Let's start off with Skye. She and her partner Alan danced an Argentine tango inspired by the Bride of Chucky to Billie Eilish's Everything I Ever Wanted. They had impressive tricks, really exciting choreography, and honestly, you guys, it was so powerful. Let's roll the clip. The judges were so proud of them. They were really impressed by the technical skills she presented and like the shapes she was creating. They kept saying the shapes were correct. Avery, I am dying to know your thoughts on this. The fans obviously like saved them last week. They didn't even end up in the bottom, and that performance was rough. So this was like really, really important. I feel like that they killed it tonight, and I think they did. I thought they were absolutely incredible. What did you think?
Yes, I definitely think they had a lot of pressure on their situation just because this whole competition has been kind of rough for her, especially these past few weeks. So I think she knew in the back of her mind this was kind of like make it or break it time. And she really brought it. Even in her interview, she was sounding way more confident, just straight to the point, like, I'm going to go out there and kill it. And I think that's what she did.
I totally agree. I hope that this continues for her because we've seen this happen before. Earlier in the competition, they did really, really well. And then she messed up and everyone was like, no, it was right there. And then the next week they killed it. And we just sort of repeated that pattern. So I'm so, so hopeful that next week she just continues with this energy because I really, really feel like she could be in our top if she keeps performing like this.
But it might get a little more difficult because next week they're doing 2 dances. So I just hope she can keep that like momentum and consistency for both of the dances, not just one.
Totally.
Johnny also made a major comeback. He and his partner Britt danced a vampire-inspired Viennese waltz to Creep by Radiohead. Johnny really opened up about his figure skating past. He told a heartbreaking story about being approached by an agent who explicitly told him he couldn't be gay. Aside from sharing his powerful story with viewers, he also killed it on the dance floor. The judges were super excited about the performance. They said it was passionate and it looked fluid, strong, and powerful. Let's take a look. I think Johnny is such a fierce competitor, and you could just see all the passion through his performance. I think all of his performances, he really brings it, and you could tell he's very into it, and that's why I love watching him so much. What did you think about this performance, Fiona?
I am so impressed with Johnny and I love their partnership. So much credit I feel like has to go to Britt because she knows how to choreograph routines where he makes her shine and she makes him shine. They have such a balanced like skill level, even though she's the pro, that I feel like I consistently get those moments when I'm watching them where I'm like, he could be the pro. He is there right there with each other. And I think they're going to continue to kill it. Last week, I have to imagine, was like such a kick in the butt because he started this competition kind of just like in the middle, getting better and better. And then he had a long, strong streak. So I have to imagine that they're going to keep this energy up next week. I was so impressed.
I think so too. I think he really has the potential to maybe even win this.
Absolutely. He's definitely a front runner for me. I would not be surprised if he won, and I think it would be, totally deserved. He's very talented. All right, let's get to our top performer of the night because you guys, Neve Schulman and his partner Jenna absolutely wowed the judges. They did a Black Swan inspired Paso Doble. In the clips before the performance, he actually talked about how much the New York City Ballet meant to him. He used to go all the time with his father. So this routine actually was like really important to him, which I thought was so sweet. They shared the sweetest little clip from his dad before going on. And as wonderful as all of that was, I feel like we just have to immediately talk about the fact that they scored the first 30 out of 30 of the season, the first 10s of the season. The bar, I feel like, has been raised by this performance, and it's going to be really hard for the next couple to try to get a 10 after this. Check it out, you guys. The judges said he had amazing lines. His character evolved right before our eyes. I really loved, I don't remember which judge said it, but someone was like, it was incredibly graceful, yet still so strong, which was really, really evident throughout the performance. I think that this was another one. It was perfect storm of the choreography was really, really great. They both looked like pros the whole way through. And the costuming, the performance, the lighting, it was like the perfect storm. Did you think it deserved those 10s, Avery?
Yes, absolutely. Everything about the dance, like you said, the costumes, the song, the performance, it all complemented each other. I just have to say, I think it's the cutest thing that his dad and him just bonded over going to so many of these ballets. And it actually paid off. You could tell that this performance really meant a lot to him, and he gave it his absolute all, and he's just so fun to watch for that reason. I I'm a huge fan of Neve. I was expecting 10s from him, and I am from this point on.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. I think he as a contestant on this show is so fascinating because in the beginning we were like, yeah, like he's that host, like I don't know, and then you do a little research and you're like, no, he went to school for this, like he has a dance background. I feel like he was just sort of someone we didn't expect, and he has been steadily rising to the top. Tonight was incredible. I don't know. I think our top like 4 is becoming like clearer and clearer each week. It's going to be, I feel like there are multiple couples at this stage of the game where I would not be shocked if they won. Like it's getting really intense.
And I feel like you can't say that a lot of seasons. Like I feel like there's a good 4 that could possibly win, and it could go any way.
Totally. Before we go, you guys, we do want to break down just like some of the episode overall because a lot happened. The competition is so intense. So the bottom was Jeannie and Monica this week, and Monica ultimately went home. This was a tough one because I feel like Monica has had a better like streak in the competition, a more consistent game week to week than, for instance, Chrishell or Nelly. So it was hard to see her end up in the bottom tonight. That being said, Jeannie is such a performer. I found myself kind of being like, oh my God, what if we lose Jeannie? It was a tough decision. Were you happy with Jeannie? Would you love to have seen Monica? What did you think?
I don't know. It was a really tough decision. I just wasn't expecting Monica to go home either. But when it was just the 2 of them in the bottom 2, I was like, I don't know. I found myself in the same position. I could go either way. I just didn't expect her to go home tonight.
I know. It didn't feel fair, but at this point, it's going to be hard to lose everyone moving forward. So
exactly.
She had a really, she smiled through it. She seemed to have a great attitude. I'm sure her fans
she had
are
a really
sending so
good
much
run.
love. She really did. She should totally be proud of her performances, and we will, of course, miss seeing them. AJ McLean and his partner Cheryl had another really strong night. I think it's so obvious that AJ is in it to win it. Cheryl was dancing through recovering from an injury. I mean, they went so full out. They had, I think, some of the best props and costumes of the night. I think they're a couple to watch. I know we've been saying this for a while, but I really do. I think he could come out in the top. What do you think?
I agree too. He could definitely be one of those up there in the top. And him and Cheryl's just chemistry and friendship, it just shows that they have such a great relationship, and I just love watching them together. I was a little nervous after hearing about the whole head injury, but of course she pulled it off.
Oh my gosh, I know, so scary. The clips they showed, I was like, I don't know. it was tough to see, but thank God she's all right. Let's see what's next. We had Justina Machado kind of in the middle this week. She had a Carrie-inspired dance. I feel like she's been kind of in the middle more times than I've been expecting. I feel like she probably ended tonight with like a fire. I have a feeling we might see her really hit us with something intense next week.
I think she'll come back next week 10 times harder. This definitely was not her best performance. She brought a lot of power to it, but I thought it was still... There was kind of like some sloppy parts, but she always does great overall. So I'm expecting her to bring it next week.
Same. Well, we've said it before. We're not going to stop saying it. The competition it's been tough. It's getting tough. As Avery mentioned earlier, next week they're going to be performing 2 dances. And I think this will be a major turning point. We've seen people like Nelly and Chrishell sort of learn more each week, apply new skills, loosen up, make corrections that the judges were giving them and emerge in a better position. I feel like the 2 routines are going to separate people again. Some people are going to be way better suited to master 2 things at once than others. So it'll be really, really interesting to see who shines next week. Who do you think, Avery, has like a good shot at pulling off the 2-in-1 next week?
Neve, of course. And I think Kaitlyn can pull it off. I think she had a little slip up this week, but she'll definitely bring it.
I couldn't agree more. Neve, at this point, I'm like, the bar has been set. You better get 10s from now on. And Kaitlyn, I think, with the fire under her from this week, forget it. Next week, she is going to show up and absolutely kill it. Or at least we hope she will. On that note, you guys, we want to know your thoughts because this was such a fun week. Whose costumes did you love? Who were you rooting for? Were you surprised by the bottom group? And of course, what do you think is going to happen next week? Do you guys have a clear winner at this point? Let us know down in the comments. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell so you don't miss out on any future videos. As always, I'm your host, Fiona Zaring. You can follow me on socials at Fiona Zaring. And Avery, where can they find you?
You can follow me on socials at Avery Grooms.
Amazing. Thank you for joining us. And thank you guys for watching. We will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.